Picture this. Somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, there's a gleaming crystal palace floating around like it owns the place. This architectural nightmare belongs to the Galactic Council, a collection of alien species who have apparently never heard the phrase "too many cooks spoil the broth." Today, they're having what they call an emergency session, which in council speak means let's find new and creative ways to be condescending. At the head of an absurdly long table sits Chairman Vexstar, a blue-skinned bureaucrat whose species evolved from something that probably spent too much time licking poisonous plants. His cranial ridges are twitching with what passes for indignation among his people, and his 6 eyes are focused on a holographic display, showing Earth's recent application for galactic citizenship. "Honored colleagues," Vexstar announces, his voice carrying all the warmth of a tax audit, "we have a problem. These humans have been accepted into our illustrious society for exactly 47 standard days, and already they're causing chaos." The council chamber erupts in a symphony of alien grumbling. There's clicking from the insectoids, harmonic humming from the crystalline beings, and what sounds suspiciously like someone gargling gravel from the rock people in the back row. "They've violated 17 safety protocols," continues a stick-thin alien with too many joints in her arms. "Last week, one of them tried to pet a Venusian acid slug because, and I quote, it looked lonely. And don't get me started on their reaction to our cuisine," adds another counselor, this one resembling a very disappointed mushroom. "They described our sacred fermented algae paste as kind of funky but not bad with hot sauce." Vexstar's ridges twitched faster. In his carefully calculated opinion, humans are soft, primitive mammals who've somehow stumbled into space travel without developing proper respect for the universe's more dangerous inhabitants. They treat everything like a potential friend, which is both baffling and mildly offensive to a galaxy that spent millennia perfecting the art of mutual intimidation. "I propose," Vexstar says, his voice dropping to what he imagines is an ominous whisper, "that we provide these humans with a proper education, something to teach them that the galaxy is not their personal petting zoo." The mushroom counselor perks up. "You're thinking of the Zephyrian Shadow Beast protocol." "Precisely." Vexstar's smile would be terrifying if his species had evolved better teeth. "We release one of the galaxy's most feared predators into human space. When they inevitably panic and call for help, we'll graciously rescue them and explain the importance of respecting dangerous alien life forms." Meanwhile, roughly 3 sectors away, Captain Jake Murphy is having what he considers a pretty decent day. His cargo ship, the Caffeinated Dreams, is humming along through hyperspace with a hold full of premium Earth coffee beans, destined for a trade station that apparently pays triple rates for exotic stimulants. Jake's the kind of guy who fixes broken equipment with percussive maintenance and considers instant ramen a food group, but he's surprisingly good at not dying in space. He's currently sprawled in his pilot's chair, feet up on the console, reading a digital magazine article titled, "10 Signs Your Spaceship Might Be Haunted." So far, his ship has failed to meet any of the criteria, which Jake finds mildly disappointing. A haunted ship would at least be interesting. Little does Jake know that in approximately 15 minutes the Galactic Council's lesson plan is about to crash into his perfectly ordinary Tuesday like a meteor made of bureaucratic irony. And when it does, the galaxy is going to learn something about humans that no amount of scientific study could have predicted. They have an absolutely unshakable belief that everything in the universe just needs a little love, and possibly some kibble. The Zephyrian Shadow Beast materializes on Jake's cargo deck with all the dramatic flair its species is famous for. Reality literally bends around its arrival, creating a swirling vortex of darkness that would make lesser beings wet themselves. The creature emerges from this interdimensional tear, looking like someone crossed a panther with a nightmare, and then gave it glowing purple eyes and way too many teeth. It lands in a perfect predatory crouch, its obsidian claws extending with a sound like swords being drawn. The beast's form seems to shift and flow, never quite staying the same shape for more than a few seconds. Its presence radiates an aura of primordial terror that has literally driven entire civilizations to madness. This is a creature that hunts fear itself, that feeds on the terror of its prey before consuming their life force. The Shadow Beast opens its maw and releases its signature hunting call, a bone-chilling roar that resonates across multiple dimensions and has been known to shatter the sanity of anyone within a 3-kilometer radius. Jake looks up from his magazine, slightly annoyed. "Oh, come on, did you just drip something purple on my floor? I literally mopped this morning." The Shadow Beast pauses mid-roar, which is roughly equivalent to a fighter jet suddenly deciding to become a bicycle. This has never happened before in the entire recorded history of its species. Jake sets down his magazine and studies the creature with the analytical eye of someone who once had to remove a family of space raccoons from his engine compartment. You know what? You look just like my neighbor's cat back on Earth. Same attitude, too. He tilts his head. Are you lost, buddy? You seem upset about something. The shadow beast attempts to process this reaction. Its limited understanding of prey behavior suggests that Jake should currently be either dead, insane, or some combination of both. Instead, the human is looking at it with the expression most people reserve for finding a lost puppy. Here, kitty kitty, Jake says, making those weird clicking noises that humans apparently think all animals understand. Come here, girl, or boy. I honestly can't tell with all the interdimensional shifting going on. The beast tries again, this time adding its famous reality-warping intimidation display. The air around it begins to ripple and tear, showing glimpses of the void between dimensions. Its eyes flare brighter and shadows begin moving independently of their sources. Jake nods appreciatively. Okay, that's actually pretty cool. Are you some kind of projection system? Emma would love to see this. He pulls out his communicator. Hold on, let me get a video for my sister. The shadow beast stares at Jake. Jake stares back, while his phone loads. In the cosmic hierarchy of predator and prey, this moment represents a fundamental breakdown in the natural order that will have xenobiologists writing confused papers for the next century. You're definitely not a normal cat, Jake continues conversationally, but you've got that same judgmental look my ex's cat used to give me. Tell you what, I've got some emergency rations in the galley. Nothing fancy, but it beats whatever interdimensional hunting usually involves. The shadow beast, for the first time in its evolutionary history, finds itself wondering if it might actually be hungry. This is a deeply disturbing realization for a creature that's supposed to subsist entirely on terror and life force. Jake starts walking toward the galley, completely turning his back on the galaxy's most feared predator. Come on then, Princess Whiskers, let's see what we can find in the pantry. And because the universe has a sense of humor that borders on cruel, the shadow beast actually follows him. What happens next would make any xenobiologist weep into their research notes. Jake rummages through his galley like he's hosting an unexpected dinner guest, rather than facing down a cosmic horror. The shadow beast hovers uncertainly in the doorway, its reality-bending aura flickering like a broken hologram as it tries to process this entirely new social situation. Let's see what we've got, Jake mutters, pulling containers from various compartments. Protein bars, dried fruit, some leftover pizza that's probably still good. He pauses and looks back at Princess Whiskers. You're definitely a carnivore, aren't you? Those teeth aren't exactly designed for salad. The shadow beast attempts what it hopes is a menacing snarl, which comes out more like a confused purr due to its complete bewilderment at the situation. Hell, thought so. Jake opens a container of processed meat strips intended for long-haul cargo runs. This stuff tastes like cardboard, but it's technically food. He sets the bowl down and immediately makes his second mistake of the day. He crouches down and starts making those encouraging noises that humans use on nervous animals. The shadow beast, despite being an interdimensional apex predator, finds itself cautiously approaching the offering. The meat tastes better than expected. This is troubling for a creature whose diet typically consists of pure existential dread with a side of life force. Actual nutrition is a novel experience. Jake watches approvingly as Princess Whiskers eats, then notices something that makes him frown. Those claws are going to tear up my deck plating if we don't do something about them. He disappears into a storage locker and returns with what appears to be a large cardboard box. Here we go. Emergency scratching post. The shadow beast stares at the box. In its home dimension, it sharpens its claws on the crystallized screams of its victims. But the box does look sturdy, and those claws are getting a bit long. While Princess Whiskers experiments with cardboard-based claw maintenance, Jake decides to call his sister. Emma Murphy works at an exotic animal clinic in New Austin, and if anyone can give advice about mysterious space cats, it's her. The video call connects, showing Emma's freckled face surrounded by what appears to be a very busy veterinary clinic. Behind her, something that looks like a cross between a parrot and a disco ball is squawking at a patient that resembles a furry blue basketball. Hey Jake, what's up? Please tell me you're not calling because you've adopted another stray. Okay. First of all, that only happened twice, and second, I need some advice about this cat I found. Found? In space? Long story, but check this out. Jake turns his communicator so Emma can see Princess Whiskers, who is currently investigating whether the cardboard box is edible. Emma goes quiet for a moment. Jake, that's not a cat. I know it's not technically a cat, but look at the behavior patterns. It's basically a really big cat with some extra-dimensional stuff going on. Extra-dimensional stuff, Emma repeats slowly. Yeah, like glowing eyes and reality manipulation, but watch this. Jake pulls out a small laser pointer from his toolkit and clicks it on. The red dot appears on the floor near Princess Whiskers, who immediately pounces on it with all the dignity of a kitten chasing string. The man stares at her screen for a long moment. Jake, I think you've domesticated an apex predator. Is that bad? Well, it's never been done before, but honestly, just treat it like any large cat. Regular feeding schedule, enrichment activities, and for the love of all that's holy, get it spayed or neutered before it reproduces. The shadow beast, now thoroughly engaged with the laser pointer, performs what can only be described as an interdimensional pounce that briefly opens a small wormhole in Jake's cargo bay. Yeah, Jake says, watching reality repair itself around his new pet. I'm definitely calling the vet when I get back to Earth. Back at the Galactic Council's Crystal Palace, Chairman Vextar is experiencing what his species calls a cranial ridge meltdown, which is roughly equivalent to a human having a complete nervous breakdown while also developing a migraine. The emergency session has been going for 6 hours now, and the holographic displays surrounding the council chamber are showing live feeds from the spy drones monitoring Jake's ship. Currently, the feeds are showing Princess Whiskers attempting to catch her own tail, which creates a fascinating light show as her interdimensional form chases itself in several realities simultaneously. Jake is sitting nearby, eating what appears to be a sandwich and occasionally saying, "Good girl," in an encouraging tone. This is a disaster, Vextar announces to no one in particular. We deployed our most feared biological weapon, and the human has turned it into a household pet. Counselor Zerabeth, the stick-thin alien with too many joints, waves one of her unnecessarily long arms at the display. The creature is exhibiting play behavior. Play behavior. It's supposed to be a manifestation of cosmic dread, not a source of entertainment. The mushroom counselor, whose name is technically unpronounceable but goes by Bob for convenience, shakes his cap sadly. My species encountered a shadow beast once. It took 3 centuries and 17 different therapies before we could sleep without nightmares. This human has been with it for 4 hours, and just taught it to sit. A new voice enters the conversation, gravelly and militaristic. Admiral Crickstock of the Hegemony Warfleet stomps into the chamber on his 6 chitinous legs, each step clanking like a dropped toolbox. He's an insectoid whose species believes that any problem can be solved with sufficient application of plasma cannons. Chairman Vextalk, Crickstock buzzes, his mandibles clicking with barely contained aggression. Explain to me why my intelligence networks are reporting that humans have successfully domesticated a Zephyrian shadow beast. It's a temporary setback, Vextar insists, though his ridges are now twitching so fast they're creating a visible blur. Clearly this particular human has some sort of mental deficiency that prevents proper fear responses. On the display, Jake is now using a feather duster to play with Princess Whiskers, who is batting at it with moves that accidentally tear small holes in spacetime. Each swipe creates brief glimpses into the void between dimensions, but Jake just seems pleased that his pet is getting exercise. Mental deficiency. Admiral Crickstock's compound eyes focus on the screen with the intensity of someone watching a traffic accident in slow motion. That creature once killed an entire battalion of my finest warriors by simply existing near them. Their minds couldn't process its presence. And this human is using cleaning supplies to entertain it. Another counselor speaks up, this one a floating crystalline being whose voice sounds like wind chimes having an anxiety attack. We have historical records of shadow beast encounters across 17 different species. The survival rate for unprotected contact is 0%. The survival rate for protected contact is 12%. And that's with full hazmat suits and industrial-strength psychic shielding. What's this human's protection level? Asks Bob the Mushroom. Zerabeth checks her notes with a deeply uncomfortable expression. He's wearing what appears to be a t-shirt with a picture of a cat hanging from a branch. The text reads, "Hang in there." The chamber falls into the kind of silence usually reserved for funeral services or really awkward family dinners. On the screen, Jake has moved on to showing Princess Whiskers how to use a litter box he's improvised from a cargo container and some absorbent packing material. The shadow beast approaches it with the cautious dignity of royalty being introduced to indoor plumbing. This is unprecedented, whispers the wind chime alien. The beast is learning human domestic behaviors. It's worse than that, Vextar says, his voice cracking slightly. Look at the social media feeds. A new holographic display flickers to life, showing Jake's recently posted video titled, "Found a cat, I think. Advice welcome?" The comments section is already filling up with responses from other humans, featuring helpful suggestions like, "Try wet food, cats love it," and "Have you checked for fleas? Space fleas are the worst." Admiral Crickstock's antennae began twitching in a pattern that indicates either deep thought or an impending coronary. "Counselors, I've fought in 17 interstellar conflicts. I've seen planets cracked in half and entire star systems turned to ash. But I have never, in my military career, witnessed anything as terrifying as a human treating a cosmic horror like a household pet." "What do you recommend, Admiral?" Vexstar asks, though he's clearly dreading the answer. "We mobilize the fleet, full battle formation. We retrieve that creature before this human figures out how to teach it tricks." On the screen, Princess Whiskers has successfully used the litter box and is now receiving enthusiastic praise from Jake, who is apparently unaware that he's just potty-trained a creature capable of unmaking reality. "Too late," Bob observes sadly. "Look at the beast's body language. It's displaying what my xenobiology training identifies as contentment indicators." Sure enough, Princess Whiskers is doing something that can only be described as purring, though the sound creates small rainbow fractals in the air around her. Jake reaches out and scratches behind what might be her ears, causing the purring to intensify and briefly turn the cargo bay walls a pleasant shade of lavender. "The human has achieved interspecies bonding," Zerabeth says in a tone usually reserved for announcing galactic apocalypses. "This shouldn't be possible." Chairman Vexstar slumps in his chair, all 6 eyes closed in defeat. "Prepare the fleet, Admiral, and send a message to all member species. Avoid humans at all costs. They're clearly more dangerous than we thought." 3 days later, Jake is enjoying what he considers a pleasant routine. Princess Whiskers has learned to come when called, sits on command, and has only accidentally opened 2 small rifts in spacetime during breakfast. She's also developed what Jake recognizes as separation anxiety, following him around the ship with the devotion of a creature who's discovered that regular meals and belly rubs are significantly better than hunting in the void between dimensions. Jake is currently attempting to trim her claws using a modified cargo tool when his proximity alarms start screaming. Through the viewport, space suddenly fills with the largest military formation he's ever seen. 73 warships of various alien designs hang in formation like a particularly aggressive constellation, all of them pointing their weapons at his little cargo hauler. "Well, that's new," Jake says, putting down the improvised nail clippers. Princess Whiskers chirps questioningly, a sound that accidentally opens a small wormhole near the coffee maker. The communications array crackles to life with a voice that sounds like gravel being processed through a wood chipper. "Human vessel Caffeinated Dreams, this is Admiral Crickstock of the Galactic Defense Fleet. You are harboring a Class Omega biological weapon. Surrender the creature immediately or face the consequences." Jake looks at Princess Whiskers, who is currently batting at a ball of yarn he found in the emergency supplies. She pauses to look back at him with those glowing purple eyes, tilting her head in that universally adorable way that transcends species barriers. "Hey there, Admiral," Jake responds, activating his transmitter. "I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. I don't have any weapons aboard, just me, some coffee beans, and my cat." "Your cat?" The Admiral's voice reaches a pitch that suggests his vocal cords are filing a formal complaint. "Human, that is a Zephyrian shadow beast. It is not a domestic animal." "Princess Whiskers? Nah, she's harmless. Watch this." Jake holds up a treat he's improvised from protein bar crumbs. "Princess, sit." The shadow beast, who has somehow learned that following Jake's simple commands results in food and positive attention, immediately complies. The action is visible through the cargo bay's windows, and Jake can practically hear the collective intake of breath from 73 different ship crews. "See? Perfectly trained. She's actually really smart. Yesterday I taught her to fetch." Admiral Crickstock's voice becomes strangled. "You taught a Class Omega Predator to fetch?" "Yeah, and she's great at it. Sometimes she fetches things from different dimensions, which is actually pretty helpful when I lose tools." Jake scratches Princess Whiskers behind her ears, causing her to purr so loudly that the harmonic frequencies briefly interfere with the fleet's communication systems. On the flagship bridge, Admiral Crickstock turns to his weapons officer, a nervous-looking slug creature whose species evolved from something that spent too much time hiding under rocks. "Status report on our weapons systems." "Sir, we're experiencing some kind of interference. The targeting computers keep defaulting to friendship mode, whatever that means. Also, our torpedo guidance systems appear to be running a program called Fetch XE that I definitely didn't install. The Admiral's compound eyes swivel to focus on the cargo ship, where Princess Whiskers is now demonstrating her new trick of phasing through solid matter to retrieve a ball that Jake has thrown through the wall. The creature is influencing our technology. Actually, Jake's voice comes through the speakers, I think she's just trying to be helpful. She's been doing that thing where she fixes stuff around the ship. My coffee maker's never worked better. Chairman Vexstar's voice suddenly joins the transmission, sounding like a man who's given up on life itself. Human Murphy, this is Chairman Vexstar of the Galactic Council. We formally request that you return our biological weapons so we can properly contain it. Jake looks genuinely confused. You guys want Princess Whiskers back? But she's happy here. Look, I get that she's probably expensive to replace, but I'm taking really good care of her. I even ordered a proper cat carrier for when we dock at stations. A cat carrier, Vexstar repeats, in the tone of someone whose worldview is actively disintegrating. For a Zephyrian shadow beast. Well, yeah, can't have her wandering around loose in spaceports. That would be irresponsible pet ownership. The transmission falls silent, except for what sounds like Vexstar quietly weeping into his hands. Admiral Crickstock tries a different approach. Human, perhaps you don't understand the severity of this situation. That creature is capable of destroying entire star systems. Jake considers this for a moment. Princess, you wouldn't destroy a star system, would you? Princess Whiskers looks up from her yarn ball and makes a soft chirping noise that somehow conveys both innocence and mild offense at the suggestion. See? She's a good girl. Besides, I think you guys are overreacting. She's just a little high maintenance. The interdimensional stuff takes some getting used to, but honestly, my last cat was way more destructive. The Admiral tried one final gambit. We're prepared to compensate you for the inconvenience. Name your price. Admiral, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not selling my cat. Besides, she's finally gotten used to her routine. Disrupting that would just stress her out. On cue, Princess Whiskers demonstrates her contentment by purring so powerfully that 3 of the fleet's smaller ships briefly phase out of normal space before snapping back into reality. Admiral Crickstock looks around his bridge at his crew, all of whom are staring at their malfunctioning equipment with the expression of people who've just realized they're in way over their heads. Human Murphy, the Admiral says finally, would you be interested in having coffee? We should probably discuss this in person. 2 hours later, Admiral Crickstock finds himself in what he considers the most surreal situation of his 3-century military career. He's sitting in Jake's cramped galley, sipping coffee that's better than anything he's ever tasted, while a creature capable of unmaking reality purrs contentedly on the human's lap. Princess Whiskers has taken an immediate liking to the Admiral, probably because his chitinous exoskeleton makes excellent scratching sounds when she kneads him with her interdimensional claws. The thing is, Jake explains, absently scratching behind Princess Whiskers' ears while she creates small aurora effects in the air. She's actually really well behaved once you establish boundaries. You just have to be consistent with the training. Admiral Crickstock watches in fascination as Princess Whiskers demonstrates her latest trick, carefully phasing her claws through the Admiral's armor to give him a massage without actually damaging anything. It's surprisingly relaxing, despite the fact that his species' entire military doctrine is based on avoiding contact with interdimensional predators. How did you know she wouldn't kill you? The Admiral asks, genuinely curious. Jake shrugs. Same way you know any animal won't hurt you. Body language, mostly. She was confused, not aggressive, big difference. He gives Princess Whiskers a gentle pat. Plus, she reminded me of my grandmother's cat. Same attitude, same judgmental stare when you don't feed her on time. The Admiral's antennae twitched thoughtfully. My species has legends about creatures like this. We call them the Hungry Dark. Children are told stories about them to encourage good behavior. Yeah, well, children's stories tend to exaggerate. I bet your legends don't mention that they like having their chins scratched. Princess Whiskers demonstrates this point by tilting her head back and exposing her throat in a gesture of complete trust. The Admiral stares at this display with the expression of someone watching physics take a coffee break. Admiral, Jake continues, with respect, I think your people might have been approaching this all wrong. She's not a weapon or a monster. She's just an animal that evolved in a weird environment. Like, really weird, but still just an animal. 3 weeks later, the Galactic Council has officially updated their xenobiological classification system. The Zephyrian Shadow Beast has been reclassified from Class Omega Civilization Ender to Class C Exotic Pet with Special Needs. The change came after Jake submitted a comprehensive care guide that he'd developed through what he called basic common sense and a lot of YouTube videos about cat behavior. The guide, now required reading for all galactic xenobiologists, includes helpful chapters like why your interdimensional predator needs a consistent feeding schedule, litter box training across multiple realities, and understanding separation anxiety in cosmic horror pets. Jake's cargo business has evolved significantly. Murphy's exotic pet care, No Creature Too Dangerous, now operates out of a converted space station, and his client list reads like a bestiary of the galaxy's most feared creatures. There's Mr. Bubbles, a sentient black hole that learned to play fetch with asteroids. Gerald, a reality-warping entity from the 7th dimension who turns out to just need a good brushing twice a week. And Princess Whiskers, who has become something of a celebrity after her appearance on the galactic talk show Morning Nebula with hosts Zixandra. The waiting list for Jake's services now includes most of the Galactic Council, who have discovered that their own impossible-to-domesticate species just needed someone with the right approach. Admiral Crickstock personally brings his ship's infestation of void wasps every month, though he insists on calling it tactical creature management rather than pet groom. Chairman Vextar, meanwhile, has taken early retirement and moved to a quiet planet, where he raises what humans call space hamsters. He's much happier now, though he still gets nervous when Jake sends him holiday cards featuring Princess Whiskers wearing a Santa hat. The story might have ended there, with Jake revolutionizing galactic pet care and everyone living happily ever after. But the universe, as previously established, has a sense of humor that borders on malicious. Last week, the Council received reports of something stirring in the Andromeda Dark Zone, something ancient and terrible that makes shadow beasts look like house cats, something with tentacles that exist in 17 dimensions simultaneously, and a hunger that could theoretically consume entire galaxies. The emergency session lasted 37 hours before Chairman Vextar's replacement finally stood up and made the motion that surprised absolutely no one. I propose we contact Human Murphy immediately, and someone get me his rate sheet. The motion passed unanimously. Jake's response, when reached by Quantum Entanglement Communicator, was characteristically casual. Sure, I can take a look, but I'm gonna need a bigger litter box, and probably some industrial-strength scratching posts. Oh, and tell your people to stop calling them cosmic horrors. Names have power, you know. This one looks more like a Mr. Snuggles to me. The galaxy collectively shuddered, not from fear of the approaching cosmic entity, but from the growing realization that humanity's most dangerous characteristic isn't their technology, their adaptability, or even their disturbing lack of proper survival instincts. It's their absolute, unshakable belief that everything in the universe is just a friend they haven't met yet. And honestly, they might be right.